All right, so very warm welcome to everybody to Meaningful Monday. This is great. We are into a new month already. Wow. So first of all, I just want to wish every one of you a very happy and blessed Easter if you celebrate Easter. It's a really important occasion for the year for me. I probably think it's the most important time of the year. That's just for me personally. So if you also celebrate Easter, very blessed Easter to you. And I hope it's been a good weekend for you. And if you celebrate Passover, very happy Pesach, Chag Sameach to you as well. And so just for the people who are new, just to let you know, Meaningful Monday is the first Monday of every month. It's a free webinar on any subject which we can deem to be meaningful. And the purpose is to just really raise awareness that we do create our own reality in every way, shape, or form, whereas a lot of people have a bit of a struggle in their lives, and that tends to come most of the time from a just misguided perception, really, of thinking that things happen to us, and sometimes they do. However, we still have control of what we think and what we feel. So we do mostly create our own reality, I would say, and we do that really with our thoughts, with our feelings, and then these translate into our behaviors, which give us our results. And a lot of it is driven by our paradigm. So thank you very much for joining. And for the people who've joined before, really lovely to have you back. Thank you so much. And it's so lovely to be here with all of you on this Easter Monday. So thank you again. All right. So the topic for tonight is quite an interesting one. Let me just let someone else in. Oh, happy Easter. Thank you, Claire. So it is recorded. The reason it's recorded is that all of these Meaningful Mondays go onto my YouTube channel, which is at the bottom there, Silver Method Australia. They're all there. So if you want to pick up an old one, there's all kinds of topics from self-sabotage to dealing with guilt, or how to, the difference between goal setting and goal achievement, whatever it may be. There's all a varied amount of topics. So you can go and pick those up there. So this that I'm going to talk to you about tonight, when life isn't fair, is probably a feeling that every single one of us get from time to time. I know I felt like that when things are not going my way too often. And it just, I think, is just a really good awareness raiser to talk about it in specific terms, to how we come with that thought. It's originally a thought, really, like, this is not fair. Why is this happening to me? Things like that. And the more we look at it from an outside point of view, but objectively, it can really and truly change the way we would respond to the very same thing with a different level of awareness. So everything is really about awareness. So the content that I'm going to share with you was influenced a lot by Wayne Dyer, coming from one of his very best-selling books called The Erroneous Zones, which I have done more than one Meaningful Monday on, and I really do value them enormously, because they are erroneous zones, which just means they are erroneous ways of thinking, and it's just a perception. It's just the way we choose to view a situation. So I think Wayne Dyer, in his book, The Erroneous Zones, he called the section that he's talking about this the justice trap. And he calls it a trap because he says it's like the life isn't fair trap. And it's a trap because we keep ourselves stuck in that feeling of negative emotion, which can wear us down and can make us feel quite exhausted if it goes on for too long, and make us also feel quite sorry for ourselves. If that goes on for too long, it actually breaks down your immune system. If you're having a very tough time, you'll know that you might end up getting sick, or the sniffles or the flu or something come down with something, because we do break down our immune system with negative thinking. So let's dive into this. And by the way, any of you at any time can ask me a question. All I'd ask for the etiquette of the webinar, it's very quiet and lovely at the moment. If there is any noise in your household in the background, just mute your own microphones, but feel free to unmute them and chat to me at any time. So I'd like you just to take a minute and write down on a piece of paper. If you haven't got pen and paper, just go grab a pen and paper for yourselves quickly, and just write down for yourself, when last did you feel quite strongly a situation that wasn't fair, that you felt life wasn't fair? If you have one, great. If you don't have one, great. See if you do ever, if you have any recollection at all. And even if it's that you don't feel like that today, but you felt like that years ago when you were younger, then also make a note of that for yourself. How, what was that years ago, and you can look at yourself now with probably a different sense of gratitude if things have changed for you. So you just do that, and if you've got an example, you can either raise your hand at the bottom if you click on reactions, I think it says. In the chat box, you can put it in, but you can also raise your hand on the, it just shows up. How big do you want that, Janine? How big do you want that? Jackie, or simply little not fair? Oh, it's up to you. It can be anything. That's a very good question. Is it a big, this is not fair, or a little, this is not fair? Absolutely anything. So that's a good question. A big one would be good. And if you're aware that you have little ones happening, that's also very good. I would make a note of both, actually. It's good for yourself, and nice that you asked that question. So have you all got something there? If you have, yep. So this is good. And the reason I make you take a minute or so just to think about when you thought life wasn't fair is to make this relevant for you and real for you. I don't want you to sit an hour through Meaningful Monday and get a theory lesson and you go back tomorrow to everything being the same. I would like you to relate it to something in your life, because it'll shift your awareness. If you just do it on this one subject, it will probably raise your awareness enough to pop into your mind for every future one as well. And that's what I really want, is for that to happen for you. So, Wayne Dyer says, you cannot always control what goes on outside. That's very true. But you can always control what goes on inside. And I don't know if any of you have ever read one of my favorite books of all time that I've actually read several times in my life, is Viktor Frankel's book called A Man's Search for Meaning. And it was about him as a Jewish psychiatrist who was in Auschwitz in a concentration camp. And, when they start the story off, it's quite shocking how they take everything from everybody. And he said he was standing there and they take all your clothes, all your possessions. And the one thing he just wanted was to keep his wedding ring on, and they wanted that too. So he took that off, and that emotion is quite strong when you read it in the book, and he passes that over. But worse than that, they take away your name. So it was quite an interesting thing to think that they could take everything from you, including your name, and they gave you a number instead. But what Viktor Frankl said was, the one thing they cannot take away from you is your own freedom to choose what you think. And it was such a powerful realization that he not only survived the Holocaust and came out the other side, is that he actually learned so much through the experience that he wrote the book A Man's Search for Meaning, which is really about having a purpose and meaning in your life. It says if you have a strong enough why, you'll overcome any how. But the point of the story that I'm mentioning is, even in that situation, which is really extreme, Viktor Frankl makes us realize that we can always, always control what goes on the inside. And something as terrible and horrifying as being in Auschwitz, to think a person can be that mindful and that aware to even choose their thoughts under such circumstances. And it's because of that he really had an experience which was better than others. And one of the best stories in the book is when they told people that the war would be over and they declared peace on Christmas Day. And as they were told that, color came back in their cheeks, and the people looked happier and healthier just in the breaking of that news. And then when Christmas Day came and they never declared peace, on the 26th of December, a whole lot of people died. And that was about just that awareness of them losing hope. So it was all to do with everything going on in their thoughts. And he explains this in the book very well. So this quote that I have here of Wayne Dyer is such a powerful awareness. It's such a powerful message for us to always remember that whatever's going on in our life, that we really do control our response to it. And this is what is going to help you, hopefully, through this webinar, is when life isn't fair, how do we actually deal with it? All right, so just to share with you, these are typical things that we say, or that thoughts pop into our head, things like it isn't fair. In relationships, we can very often feel a sense of injustice. Like, I wouldn't do that to you. Why would a person do that to me? That feeling, like especially when your values are different and someone behaves in a way that completely compromises your own values, you feel that very strongly because you wouldn't do that to someone else. So that's why you'd come up with that thought, would I do that to you? And you have no right to if I can't. So we're really conditioned in our lives to look for justice. And when we don't find justice or things being fair, then what happens is we tend to feel anger, often anxiety, even frustration. But the truth of the matter is, as strange as it's going to sound, justice doesn't exist. And that's, if you want to make notes, write that down. It doesn't exist. It never has, and it never will. We look for justice and we want that all of the time. But if you go and analyze life throughout, you'll find that there isn't fairness really in most of even nature. If I think of myself, I grew up in South Africa. If you go to a game reserve, if you go to the ones that are really a natural game reserve without animals being separated and fed, you'll see that the lion kills the buck, and that's not fair on the buck. But if he didn't kill the buck, then the lion would die, and that's not fair on the lion. So, the bird eats the worm. It's not fair on the worm. Spiders eat flies. It's not fair on the flies. So that's an example with animals. Things happen that are also not fair, like tornadoes. We have floods, we have earthquakes, all kinds of natural disasters, droughts. They're not fair. They're not fair to the people who are suffering in those situations. And there are people suffering unfairness every day, all over the world. So the lack of justice around you actually has nothing to do with the choice to be happy or unhappy. And this is the key message, that we need to separate these two things to understand what is our role in what's going on in the outside world, and how can we manage ourselves better to actually be happier more often. Because the feeling that things are not fair will do nothing more than make us unhappy or angry. That feeling when you can't control how it should be. Like, it should be like this, shouldn't be like that. People shouldn't be suffering. Animals shouldn't be suffering. So this is not a negative or sour view of humanity at all, or a sour view of the world, but it's actually a more accurate view of what the world is like. Because if you go into nature, you will see it all the time. A lot of it isn't fair. So justice is actually a concept, and it should be separated or not interfere with our choice to be fulfilled in life and our choice to be happy in life. And that we can really control, because that's from the inside. So when it comes to relationships, this is quite a big deal, because the quotes that I have on the screen there, the more we think thoughts like that, and the more frequently we think them, especially if it relates to your significant other or your children or someone in your household, because you do that frequently, it's like an everyday in and out, in and out. What it's going to do over time, if it's not thought of in a different way, or we don't see our opportunity to change the way we think or the way we feel, then it leads to resentment. And resentment is probably the worst energy ever in a relationship. It's quite damaging, and it never, ever goes unexpressed. It goes unexpressed some way, somehow. If it doesn't go unexpressed into the relationship through, like if you're trying to not express it, it comes out in passive-aggressive behavior, which is very dangerous too, because it's like having pressure inside a champagne bottle, and instead of popping the cork and letting it all out, you drill a tiny hole in the cork and let it out slowly, so it keeps going. You've got to take a long time with all this passive aggressive behavior. So resentment is very damaging in that way. It's also very damaging on your own health. There are far too many stories of people who have developed major illnesses, including things like cancer, from suppressed anger and suppressed resentment. And women, if you're aware of breast cancer, or people in your life that have had breast cancer, you'll know that very often it's just literally not getting things off your chest. And it's so literal that it's on the chest. So when it comes to relationships, oops, let me just go back here. We do need to be very aware of things that cause underlying resentment, and be able to work with forgiveness and love every single day of our lives, not like a once-off event. Some people think they've got this major issue with a single person and they're going to just, perform some forgiveness and go through some process of forgiveness and then it's done. It's actually an ongoing, lifelong, daily spiritual practice that has to be practiced every single day for us to actually get rid of that. So getting back to this feeling of being unfair, basically we seek justice and we use the lack of it, like the lack of justice when we see it in our lives, as justification for our own unhappiness or justification for our own negative behavior because, if you did that, then I'm doing that. If you upset me, well, I won't talk to you. And if you, whatever, then I'll do something else. So it's kind of, it can lead to that. I'm not saying it always does. It can. So thinking about the way we view justice, we need to work out a way for ourselves to eradicate this feeling, which all it really is a feeling of injustice in our lives, in our relationships, and just generally in the world at large. And you need to decide that from a psychological point of view, you're not going to be defeated the whole time. When I say defeated, it means that these emotions get hold of you and they control you. Instead of you controlling and managing your own thoughts and your own emotions and finding a better outcome for yourself, your health, and the relationships of people around you. So I'll tell you that even in the legal system, the legal system promises justice. People demand justice. Some of them even work to make it happen. They're even in that industry. But the truth is, even in the legal system, there isn't always justice. I'll give you an example. You will know, I don't know, I'm not saying it's in this country, but you will know in some places in the world. I mean, I come from South Africa, and this is a reality there. If you've got money, you're often not convicted. You can pay judges off, you can pay policemen off. So even in that system, it isn't fair. I know that in the United States, a president or vice president, they can be pardoned or like slapped on their wrists for blatant felonies. There again, there's no real justice. You'll often find more poor people in jail than very wealthy people in jail. How does that happen? Well, we think it's a coincidence sometimes, but no, probably someone has paid someone off and they've got out of the proper sentence that they're supposed to have. So even in that regard, it's not fair, but it is true and it does happen. So it's very admirable to want to fight injustice. And I think that's something that, if a person wants to do that they absolutely can. But to be upset by injustice is irrational as guilt. Because if you choose to be upset by it, then we're saying then this thing is controlling my emotions. And you really do have the power to choose your own emotions. And this is really the purpose of this webinar. I like this little comic strip here. If life was fair, I'd have everything because I work so hard. That's another feeling people get. Why do I work so hard but have less or struggle more or have life so more difficult than someone else who hardly works and they got everything going for them? Or if life was fair, I'd have everything because I'm such a good person. Like, why do bad things happen to good people? And that's not fair. That, again, is a thinking pattern which we really do have the power to change because it's really not true. None of it is really true. The truth is we create our own reality and we choose to feel the way we feel. So when it's about being unfair and being unhappy, this is the opportunity that we have, which is what Wayne Dyer calls an erroneous zone. So it's not fair. It's a very common statement or slogan that you'll find in unhappy relationships or in relationships that aren't really working so well. So what really happens is when we lash out with this comparison about what's fair that you're doing or not doing, or what I'm doing or not doing, either one, and saying it's unfair, it really just breaks down effective communication in a relationship. And we find that we actually lower that mature level of communication if it perpetuates to a lower and lower and lower level. And if you analyze it, you'll see that the more it perpetuates, the more childish people become, and they're eventually speaking to each other like kids do. Like when you cry and upset, you say, it's not fair, why did you take my toy, and whatever. It actually lowers itself to that, which is really emotional maturity, when we can look at things and have effective communication and try to actually solve the core issue by respecting someone else, speaking to them in a mature way, and managing our own emotions, our own temper, and trying to come to common ground or to find a win-win solution, or just to really understand that people are different. That's the key thing. We are different, and sometimes things that people do will not be the same as what we would do in that situation. But you view it as that it's not fair, or what you're doing is not fair, just makes you feel unhappy. And that's a choice again. I love this little comic strip of this guy. You're an adult, and you like to say that's not fair, and then don't quite have this adult thing figured out, do you? That's quite funny. So the mindset is the actual problem at the core of ineffective relationships, which comes to the way you view the other person, and it can actually become a habit pattern through starting to think that certain behaviors that they take are unfair or not justified or not just, or whatever it may be. And when we start to think that thought more than once, we start to create a belief. And the minute we do that, what happens is we keep looking into the relationship and finding more evidence and more evidence to prove it back to ourselves, because that's what we do in life when we have created a belief. So beliefs really govern our living experience, and beliefs govern our behavior. So can we change a belief? The truth is yes, absolutely. How do we change a belief? Well, we decide that this belief I'm having is not serving me. So if you have a belief that it's not fair that my partner X, Y, or Z, and we think that, and then we think it more than once, 3 times, and now we believe it, we keep seeing that evidence. And every time that happens, we get upset. Every time it shows itself up, we say that again, or we think that again, or we just get this resentment inside us, feeling that feeling. Well, when you have that awareness, it's the time to say, well, I'm unhappy right now. What is going on? What am I thinking right now? What am I believing about the situation right now that is contributing to this unhappy situation for me? And when you can ask that question right there and then, you will find the belief comes out that something along the lines is, it's not fair that he always gets to play golf on a Saturday and I get to always look after the kids and then again on a Sunday, or something like that. You think that, you're upset by that, you repeat that, and then every time it happens again, the same old thing is going to make you upset. So number 1 is awareness. Number 2 is, what belief is contributing to me feeling so unhappy? And it can be anything. It's not fair that you have more than I, whether that's time or money or pleasure or going out or having whatever it may be. I didn't get to do that. Why should you get to do that? And we have different scenarios along those lines. So in this case, you're determining what is good for you based on someone else's behavior. I'll say this again. You determining what is good for you based on someone else's behavior. So what you're doing now is you making them in charge of your emotions. And this is why it's called an erroneous zone. Whenever you compare yourself to anyone else, you're playing it's not fair game, you're shifting from self-reliance, where you're self-empowered and you control your own happiness, to someone else on the external of you, someone else outside of you is determining your happiness. And that is where we feel disempowered. That's where we get frustrated, and that's where we get angry. And that's where, through repetition, we start to develop resentment. And I'll just say this, the backdrop for virtually all neurosis is making others' behavior I'm just going to mute the mics. Hold on a second. You can unmute your mics at any stage. I'm just going to mute them with some noise in the background. So what I was saying is the backdrop of virtually all neurosis is making others' behavior more significant than your own. So when we ever have this feeling come up, remember that we're upset because of their behavior. And the truth is, we're not really here to control other people's behavior. And if we think we are, we'll never be happy. So we're not here to control other people's behavior, nor should we try. We are here to control our own emotions. We are here to control our own thoughts about it and to control our behavior in a situation. So here's Wayne Dyer again. With everything that has happened to you, you can either feel sorry for yourself or treat what has happened as a gift. Everything is either an opportunity to grow or an obstacle to keep you from growing, and you get to choose. You get to choose every time. So when he says, what has happened to you, feel sorry for yourself, we know what that's like, or treat it as a gift. Well, how is it a gift? If we feel negative emotion, quite strong negative emotion, whether it's things that are happening in the world, there's all kinds of things happening in the world. I don't have to tell any of you any of that. There's natural disasters happening in the world. There's a lot of suffering in the world. Then there's things within your relationships. There's things within your work environment. There may even be things regarding your own health where you think this is just not fair. So if you just switch that mentality to say, hold on a second, what can this situation that's giving me this feeling that it's not fair, how can this be a gift? Well, I would say ask the question, what can I learn from this? And there will always be something we can learn. And once we say, what can I learn from this? We switch that to something empowering, whether it's developing compassion, understanding, forgiveness, developing forgiveness. If it's an illness in the body, is it something that we can become aware of, that we are contributing through our negative emotion for the lack of well-being in our body in some way, shape, or form? Where they say 96% or more, actually, of all illness or disease is caused from negative emotions. So whether they're suppressed or repressed, one is conscious, one is unconscious, it manifests itself in the body. So even that can become a gift. This sounds a bit strange sometimes, but I'm sure in your own life, it may be you, or it may be someone that you know, where they've had a tragedy happen to them. It could be a terrible illness. It could even be cancer. It could be the shock of being made redundant or something like that. And at the time, it's horrendous. But as time goes by and months have passed and things have, worked out and life's come back to a good place, when they look back on that, they often say, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And at the time, they would never say that. So there's an example of saying that happened to me is a gift. They learn something from it. And especially people who have like a radical shock on something that wakes them up. Maybe it's the first time in their life that they find their voice, the first time that they speak up for themselves. So there is always generally an opportunity there. All right, here's another one about jealousy. Jealousy is definitely an emotion that comes up when we think things are not fair. And this is just a demand for justice. So there's a guy named John Dryden, and he called jealousy the jaundice of the soul. I really do love those words, because if you think about the jaundice of the soul, how damaging an emotion like jealousy can be. And what happens if you feel jealousy? It's going to get in the way of your life, of your relationships, and it's going to create what we call emotion immobility. You can't move past a situation where you're getting bumped up all the time with jealousy. You just can't move past that, and it just keeps you stuck and keeps you emotionally immobile. Now, what we need to do is if you do suffer from jealousy in any way, is to actually make it a personal development goal to somehow, some way eradicate jealousy from your life completely. Even if you feel in the smallest way, And jealousy in a relationship is really the demand for someone's love that you want in a very certain way. You want their love in a certain conduct that meets your expectation. And if it doesn't meet that expectation, this emotion gets triggered and we feel a sense of jealousy. And again, we're now immediately disempowered. And it actually comes from a lack of self-confidence and a lack of self-love. And the way Abraham Hicks refers to jealousy is so fantastic. They say, it's a belief that there is something you don't have or can't maintain. And that gives you a feeling of jealousy. A belief that there's something you don't have or can't maintain. So it allows their behavior to be the cause of your emotional discomfort. And if this continues to happen, their behavior is always going to overpower your feeling of happiness or unhappiness. And we cannot live that way because we cannot control other people's behavior. And because we can't control their behavior, if we don't get rid of jealousy, that behavior is always going to control us emotionally. And that's an awful way to live. And it's such a massive distraction, jealousy, that you actually can't be happy because it starts to become almost like an obsession. It keeps playing in the back of your mind and you think about it all the time. Now, people who really love themselves, really like themselves, don't choose jealousy. They just don't have it as anything in their lives at all. And they don't allow themselves to become upset by outside behaviors. Just some small things that I'm going to mention here. Some people talk about them. They think they're not jealous, generally speaking, but they're aware of what I call injustices or imbalances when it comes to like people getting paid differently for doing the same work. That often comes up. Or insisting that things need to be consistent and they often not consistent. Or in arguments, insisting that you want a clear-cut decision which says, okay, the one who won the argument is right and the losers must admit that they're wrong. I know people, when they're in arguments with people, they want that person to say, I'm wrong. I'm sorry I was wrong. They are not happy until they hear the words, I'm not happy. Sorry, that the person says, sorry, I was wrong. So they want to say, well, in this situation, I'm right, and they must make that other person wrong, and they must want their acknowledgement for them being wrong. In that situation, again, it may not happen. It may never happen. What's going to happen? You're going to remain unhappy as a result of it. So some people even use it's not fair as an argument to get their own way. So you went out last night. It's not fair that I have to stay home tonight. Or you did this, so I'm going to do that. And if you don't get the equal, then you're going to be upset about it. How are you going to be upset about it? You're going to play it out in the relationship by what? Withholding love or having a response that is not totally forgiving, totally loving, unconditionally loving. It starts being loving with conditions. So that's, again, a reason to eradicate this feeling of it's not fair or jealousy. And the other thing is when we compare ourselves to others in any way, no matter what it is, we're always going to come up short. There's a quote that I love. It says, comparison is the thief of joy. If you have children, I would recommend from the youngest age, you teach them that sentence. Just to remind them that comparison is the thief of joy. Every time they're comparing what they have to their friend or their sibling, they're going to get upset about it. So if comparison is taking their joy away, then teach them not to compare, but to rather value how we are all different. Because in life, we are all different. And it's always going to be that way. And no matter what it is that we're talking about, someone's going to be better than you and someone's going to be worse than you on anything, whether that's how well a person earns money, how well a person is in public speaking, how well, whatever it may be, how a person does a specific craft. There are always going to be people worse off or less worse off than what you are. So other things that keep us from getting us what we want or just being happy are all these kinds of comparisons. I'm not as pretty as that person, or I'm not as smart as that person, I'm not as young as that person, or I'm not as whatever it may be. I don't make as much money as that person, I'm not as educated as that person. This type of thinking is really just an excuse for us to be unhappy. It's just an excuse because we can choose to feel whatever we want to feel at any given time. And if we respect other people and admire them because we have a healthy form of a relationship with ourselves, like healthy self-love, none of those would even play as thoughts in our head. When the relationship with yourself is healed and you do love yourself, if someone in any way has got more better than you in any way, you admire them for it. You love them for it. You're happy for them. And that's actually like a barometer, a meter, excuse me, for any one of us to have self-awareness as to how much more work we need to do on our relationship with ourselves. So every time we feel a sense of unhappiness due to some form of comparison, just bring it back to yourself and think, well, I'm triggered here. Why am I triggered? I can do more work on my relationship with myself. Also, when we are making comparisons, I'm not educated enough, I'm not wealthy enough, I can't do this, and someone else can, but I can't do it, good things never happen to me, that kind of thinking. When I say it's an excuse, it's also an excuse for us to play small in life or to not take risks in life. You'll find people who don't want to take risks will compare themselves to someone else who's done that very thing and say, well, I can't do it because I'm not that, whatever. Or even saying, I'm not that risk averse. But you actually want this thing. A very good example for me is I also sell investment property. I help clients invest in property. And I know people who want to, and they've come to seminars, they've had one-on-one meetings, and they still want to, and they don't take the action. And then they'll come back to another seminar at some point, and you'll ask them, so are you ready to invest, or what's holding you back now, or something? And then they'll say, oh, my brother just did it, and he just bought investment property, and he did this, and he did that. And I'll say, well, what about you? I'll say, well, I'm not that risk averse, or I'm not that comfortable. I'm too cautious. Or there again is an opportunity. You're making a comparison in a situation where you have claimed you want something, but don't give it to yourself. You don't take that step. For some reason, there's a terror barrier, there's a fear barrier, whether it's I want to study further. I want to study further, but you don't study further. Why don't you study further? Oh, I'm worried about this, that, and that. But someone else, just like you, has done it. Oh, but and then there's a comparison there. They can do it because of this, this, and this. What I'm saying is we create these excuses in our life to really often hold ourselves back, not taking the right risks for our own soul's journey, our own destiny, our own fulfillment, our own finding our life purpose, our own doing what we really love to do, to developing more of our potential, to really living our best lives. Anything that stands in our way is often just fear, and we find a reason to justify why we don't take the action through things like things are not fair or making the comparison. And when we do this, it also becomes a habit. And you find the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So it'll play out again in other parts of our life as well. So here's another quote by Wayne Dyer. He says, rejoice in the prosperity of others. Absolutely. When you feel contemptuous or even a tiny little twinge of jealousy because of other people's accomplishments or their lifestyles, then you are harboring negativity inside you where love should really reside. And this is such a good, again, barometer. Negative emotion is always a barometer, often, as to the relationship with ourself that's not healed. So I did a course in the beginning of this year called Silver Manifesting. And the one thing that we discussed in there were obstacles to manifesting. And these obstacles were things like, fear of rejection, abandonment issues, feelings of control, whether you feel out of control or you have to be in control, otherwise you feel out of control, feeling of helplessness or hopelessness. All these things often stem from our childhood years between 0 and 7, and we may not even know how they were created, but they show up in our lives and they trigger us, and they make us disempowered, and they make us lose our steadiness, our emotional stability, our feeling of calm and centeredness. They knock us off our center, basically. And in Silver Manifesting, the one thing that we did was we actually did kind of a visualization in a deep meditative state where we went back from our timeline, from where we are today, all the way back into our childhood. And something would have popped there through some questioning and some reflection as to an incident that might have created this initial feeling of not wanting to be rejected, not wanting to be abandoned or controlled, whatever it may be. And then we rewrote that and brought ourselves back into the present moment. Louise Hay does similar work with her self-love. So Louise has written a wonderful book called You Can Heal Your Life. And she also does something called the 21-day Loving Yourself mirror work. If anybody wants this, please just send me an SMS afterwards or an email or something. You can get the PDF for free. You can buy the book for about $15. And if you want the video course, it's about $120. I've got to say, it's one of the best programs I've ever done, and I've done it multiple times over again. And every time I've done it, I've found a step change in my life to improvement, an improvement in every way, like even to do with money. And you think, well, what has that got to do with money? It's got everything to do with money. So people who find that they're stuck and they like hit a glass ceiling when it comes to money and prosperity, there's something blocking there. It doesn't have to be one thing. It can be, in other words, it doesn't have to be the same thing for everybody. So for some people, it's lack of forgiveness. And people think, how is forgiveness related to money? It's absolutely related to money. We're doing a mastermind right now on the 3 missing chapters of Think and Grow Rich. The book's called The Epilogue to Think and Grow Rich, the 3 missing chapters. And one of them is forgiveness. And it is so true that forgiveness, holding negative emotion towards someone and resentment, blocks the flow. It can block the flow of anything. It can block the flow of happiness, the blocking the flow of love, for sure. Blocking the flow of love in your life, absolutely. And also things like money, prosperity, just succeeding, having it work out for you, going from where you are to better where you want to be. If something's stuck there, it may not be obviously to do with that particular situation. It may be something from the past to do with forgiveness or lack of forgiveness. So here again, Wayne Dyer is saying, if we have any negative emotion where other people are doing way, way better than what you are, there's some love required in that relationship. And it starts with the relationship with yourself. So that's the first place. And then, of course, forgiveness of others, and very importantly, forgiveness of ourselves. We are very hard on ourselves. We are so hard on ourselves. I don't think anyone in our lives is as hard on ourselves as what we are. And we do need to become that unconditional lover of ourselves first. Before we can expect anyone else to love us without conditions, we need to love ourselves first. So when I spoke about things like fear of abandonment and rejection and things that show up as jealousy in our relationships, or this feeling continuously, it's not fair, this is not happening, it's not fair. In like Louise Hay's mirror work or in Silver Manifesting, what happens is we become the one that gives the child in us, which it never got at age 3, 4, whatever it was, that love. Then we, the adults we are today, become the person to fill that gap of the inner child, because people think the childhood years are behind you. I'm here to tell you that the inner child is always with you. You never separate yourself from the psychology of your inner child. The psyche or the psychology, whatever you want to call it, of your inner child is always with you. And when we are triggered and emotionally kicked off balance, it's always often to do with our inner child. And when I say we become that, it means in Louise Hay's mirror work, there's a week, I think it's in week 2, where you actually look in the mirror and you stick pictures of your child you there, different ages, 3, 4, maybe 6, 7, and you look into the eyes of the child you in that photograph, and then look at your eyes in the mirror, and you actually, with intention, speak to your inner child, or use visualization with your eyes closed in meditation, visualizing your child you, and you at this age as an adult with all the resources and experience that you have, talk to the inner child you and tell that one, I am here to always love you, always protect you, always to be here for you. And I know it sounds a bit, if it's the first time you're hearing this, a bit crazy, like who does that? The first time I heard of this kind of work, I also thought, this is a bit odd. I mean, really, does this work? And why are we doing this? It sounds almost like play or fictitious or just something weird. But it is so powerful because the truth is there is a child you, in everybody. There's a child, and that child has been injured. That child has been hurt. That child has been rejected and abandoned when even they weren't really abandoned. You might not really have been abandoned, but the child at 3 feels like it's abandonment. It feels like you don't love me because you going out and leaving me at home here with granny or the babysitter. And in a child's view, that's abandonment. Of course, as an adult, we know it's not. So what happens is the adult us has to heal the child us and repair that relationship. And this, as this quote here of Wayne Dyer, when he says, rejoice in the prosperity of others. If we ever have a twinge of jealousy, it comes from that child of us that is not fair. How can he have more than me? And I don't feel good enough because he's got a bigger red truck than I do. His toy is bigger than mine. His teddy bear is big. That same feeling. Why do we develop that? Because the child hasn't got the resources of an adult. The child hasn't got the understanding and the experience of an adult. So they just interpret it from that viewpoint, from that level of awareness. So as we mature, what we're saying here in this webinar is like the key takeout, especially on this quote, is we now, with the resources we have as an adult and the raising of awareness, can heal all these childhood wounds just from awareness and practicing a different behavior. So here's Louise Hay. I absolutely love Louise Hay. I have to tell you, she's the thought leader, even though she's not around anymore. She's definitely the thought leader on the planet when it comes to self-love. And she says, I choose to feel good about myself each day. And the operative word in that sentence is choose. Because you can choose. Sometimes we don't feel like it, but the truth is we can choose. And every morning I remind myself that I can make the choice to feel good. This is a new habit for me to cultivate. That is a great affirmation. If you take a photograph of the screen there, take that and repeat that every day. It is a new habit because when we don't feel good every day, or maybe they're not every day, but maybe there's some days you just don't. It's a habit pattern. And if you want to feel happy every day, you absolutely can. But we've got to practice a new habit to create a new habit. So I love it about this choice. She puts choice or choose twice in this particular quote. Okay, some of the psychological payoffs for hanging on to your demands for justice. As long as the injustice is the cause of your problems, you can never change until the injustice goes away, which of course it never will. So this is the thing. We can't control other people and we can't control everything that happens in this world, but we can control ourselves. So it doesn't matter if the injustice is present or absent. What does matter is what we choose to think and what we choose to feel. Also, it gives you a conversation topic. It helps you avoid talking about yourself to people around you. Some people want to avoid talking about their own lives. So it says you complain about all the injustices in the world and how nothing gets done, but at least you killed those moments and escaped dealing more honestly and personally with the other person. I actually read a whole book on this, how people, when you get together with them, they talk incessantly, and it's about a lot of things and things that are going wrong, and they talking about this and that, and eventually your time is up and you have to get on with your lives again, and you actually never got to know how are you doing. That person, how are you doing? Are you okay? How's your life going? And they do it because they avoid that conversation by talking about everything else, and especially the injustices of this world, because it keeps their attention off them, because at a deep subconscious level, they don't want to tell you how they are really doing. Why? Because at a deep subconscious level, they are not happy with themselves in some way. Now, they might not even be at that level of awareness to know that, but subconsciously, they create this conversation on the front that never avoids getting to that what I call gut level communication, where you really communicate one-on-one deeply with a person about what's really going on in your life and their life, which is what the best form of friendship is. Or relationship. That's the best form of relationship, is to really be supportive and know exactly how you can be supportive, encouraging, and rejoicing in someone else's life if things are going well. And if they're not, how you can, be helpful for them. Oops. And the last one there, you can justify your vindictive behavior because you say everything must be fair. If you went out last night, I'm going out tonight. If you did this, I did. If you won't do the washing, I won't do the washing. That kind of thing. That's vindictive behavior. So it's a ploy for getting away with all kinds of manipulative and unsavory activities. You feel that the same way you repay a favor, you must repay a meanness. That's just revenge. It might be as subtle as if something gets said, it triggers you, and you just turn around and leave the room, and you want to be quiet on your own for the next 2 hours. That is a form of revenge. It's very subtle, but it's still a form of revenge because you're getting even. Somehow you want to inflict the pain you feel on the person who's caused you that pain. So you do something, whatever it may be, or you say something that's not very kind. Any one of these is a form, as subtle or unsubtle, whatever one it is, of form of revenge, form of resistance. What is the other one? And resentment. That's the third one. So those are three R's: resentment, resistance, and revenge. All right. So here's some strategies for giving up the futile insistence of justice. Like, would I do that to you? Instead of saying, would I do that to you? Rather say this. Okay, this slide didn't come out right. Oh, there it is. Sorry. So instead of saying, would I do that to you? Pause and try to just think first and say, and just come to this understanding. You are different to me. Although I find that hard to accept right now. That's a much more powerful response. And the more we use it with awareness and being responsive and not reactive, when you give that little gap to yourself to respond correctly, and you use these words, you start to actually train yourself in your mind to change an old habit pattern and come to a place of mutual respect, self-empowerment, and developing more mature and harmonious relationships with others. The second one, it isn't fair, to rather say, I'd prefer. It's unfortunate, it's okay, but doesn't really move you much forward. But rather say, I'd prefer. I'd prefer to see this in the world. Then that's like accepting that it is, and stating your viewpoint as to what you'd prefer. But you say it isn't fair, it's like you're a victim. And we don't want to create that kind of feeling in ourselves ever that we are victims, because we're not. We are empowered to choose our experience. So this will really help free you from what I call the chains of being hurt when others behave differently to the way that you might want them to behave. It also just, replacing these sentences helps to train us to be more empowered and to accept reality for what it actually is. And it doesn't mean we necessarily approve of it, but we do accept it. And once you get to acceptance, you immediately feel better. You know that in your own life, when you wish something would be different, you feel really unhappy all the time. And the minute you say, well, that's it. It is what it is, and you accept it, you come to kind of a place of peace. So that's what we're looking for. Okay, so just to sum it up, it is at the end of the day always our choice. And going back to that book of Viktor Frankel, A Man's Search for Meaning, it was Viktor Frankel who said there's that gap between stimulus and response in which all our power lies. And that's really true, because the gap between stimulus and response, if we don't become aware of it and use it to make a different choice, that's what we call react. And react means it's on autopilot. If you're on autopilot, that means you are operating from your paradigm. You're operating from your conditioning. That means you're most likely operating from a program that's been written between the ages of 0 and 7 years of age, where you really didn't have many resources then as you do as an adult. So you see how that cascades down when we react, autopilot, the paradigm, the program, the imprint phase. So when we don't react and we respond, that's what Viktor Frankel's talking about. That's the power, the point of power between symptom and response. And that's when you choose sentences like here. You're different to me, although I find that very hard to accept right now. That's when someone does something that you wish they would do differently, saying you're different to me. And I challenge everybody to just have this thought. And the more you think this thought, the better your life will become. Just say, if there's anyone in your life, anyone who you find there's a bit of friction in that relationship, somehow, whatever it may be, is it possible that I could learn to love them unconditionally? That I could just love them, expecting nothing in return? Is it possible that I could learn to do that? Because the more we question ourselves and reflect on that question, the more you actually elevate your spiritual evolution, to be honest. You elevate yourself to a higher thinking plane, to just love someone because you are more aware of their being than their behavior. Because everyone, their true being, their spiritual essence is pure, perfect, and wonderful. And yes, our behaviors are not always great, and they play up sometimes, and we don't like the behaviors, and they're not great. But the being is truly beautiful, the person. And they probably, with their mess ups, if they're doing bad behaviors, are probably and most likely, I'm telling you, doing their best from their level of awareness. They're actually doing their best. Even when people are not doing the right things and think, how can a person be doing something so silly or so unkind or so crazy? From their level of awareness, understanding, and knowledge, from that level, they most often are doing their best. So when we look at it that way, that just helps us to be more forgiving and unconditional in our love. And when we find ourselves triggered, to go back to ourselves, to heal those childhood wounds and not try to change or fix another person, but only focus on changing and fixing ourselves. So, number one, thinking about it's unfair. It's a trap. It's just a trap. It's going to keep you unhappy. To get out the trap, one, it's your choice. Two, some of the sentences that we use, I put them in there. Number three, you are in charge of your emotions. So when you feel unhappy, catch yourself and say, can I choose to manage this differently with some more awareness? I'm not here to control other people. And if that's what they're doing, that's it. Accept it. How I'm going to respond now is up to me. If I want to be angry, I'm aware. If I'm going to be neutral, I'm aware. If I'm going to be happy and keep her, I'm aware. So you know that it's you and you. And a lack of self-confidence and self-love is really what leads to jealousy. So there again, if you feel those feelings, how can you heal those wounds? Find the resources. Read Louise Hay's book or do 21-day mirror work of loving yourself. Find the resources, find a course, find a program, get a coach, do whatever you need, but heal those childhood wounds. And then the payoffs, that's really that, feeling that there's always a payoff to us bursting out and making things equal. If you don't do this, I won't do it, but that's never going to heal the problem. And then give it up. Give up the thought that things are not fair. It starts with a thought and then obviously a feeling. Okay, that's it. So I love this quote. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And that can be anything. No one can make you feel angry without your consent or frustrated, anxious, whatever it may be. It really is up to us. So just going back to what you wrote in your paper in the very, very beginning of tonight when you said, where do you feel a situation in your life is unfair? And just ask yourself, is there another way I could look at this? Could I look at this differently? Could I re-empower myself? Go back to that. And then just share. If you want to unmute your microphone just quickly and share with me, don't tell me your exact situation if you don't want to share that, but just share. Is it possible for you to have a shift in your initial feeling? Yes or no? You can even put in the chat box if you like. Yes or no? Is it possible for you to shift from a feeling of, because when you feel that things are unfair, we feel disempowered, just to move to a place of, I'm in charge of my emotions? Anyone? Yes? Raise your hand or put Y in the chat box. Thank you, Carly. I don't know how you put your little thumb up there. Very good. Anyone else? Or anyone else want to share?
Oh, I think I've just started my video again. It's Claire. I don't know if you can see me or not.
Yeah, but you look lovely, Claire, so don't worry about
Do
that.
I?
Yes.
I can't actually see myself, so that's okay. The thing I'd written down initially was that I recognised that that unfairness thing was a big theme in my home, and having many brothers and sisters, we would try to have everything be equal, but not actually look into whether like what people's needs were, for example, right? And I think I found that really helpful. The idea of just going, yeah, just don't even be buying into whether something's fair or unfair. And I've definitely found for myself, one of the things that I do now that I didn't know to do when I was younger is that I have a pause between something happening, some sort of stimulus, and then my response. So that's my number one way of dealing with, well, it's something I have found helpful.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Claire. Very good. Anyone else want to share? Yes, no? Just remember, if you share, you actually help others. So look at it that way. It's not about it's more about your contribution is always helpful to others. So if you want to share, please unmute your mics and share.
Sure, I'll share, Janine.
Thanks, Carly.
With with my situation, which was a big one a couple of years ago, and not just from tonight, but stuff I've been working on for 6 months was it was something that somebody else was doing to me, and just actually letting that go, but also taking responsibility for, myself in what was happening. So, taking responsibility for, letting, allowing those people, into our lives and or my family's life. And yeah, so rather than it being out of my control, I took that control back and, I guess grew from that and learnt from that.
Thank you. That's a big deal, It's a very big deal to make that shift. So very good on you. Well done. Yeah. And to even think of it and to act on it and to practice something different is a very big deal. So I do commend you there. Anybody else want to share? No?
I'm not sure how.
Yeah, you're on, Donna. Thank you.
I'm not sure how you can change a ingrained behavior that's so in depth, like or you've got to the point where you just don't care. You know the behavior's there and you just think it's too much work to change it.
Oh, you're talking about your own behavior or someone else's?
Oh, mine.
Oh, yeah. So when it's very ingrained, the most powerful way is to use visualization, and it works thousands of times faster than it's taken to develop that pattern. So we think it's taken me 50 years to develop this belief or this pattern. I need to take 50 years to reverse it. It's never true. We can reverse it in a few powerful visualizations. It's so powerful. All you need for it to work is a intention that's strong, and a decision and a commitment. I want to change this. I'm going to work on this. I want a different outcome, and you go for it. That's all it really takes. Sometimes we're not ready to make that change, and then we don't have enough desire. But you do need a strong desire. I want to change. I will change, and you go ahead. So desire is the very first step, and then it's the belief. And to change any belief of how we are, how we behave, whatever it is, visualizing is exceptionally powerful. Just make sure that you take enough time to relax before you start visualizing. And why? Because you do want to slow the brainwave frequency down to low alpha and visualize there, because that's when you can make best access to the subconscious mind to make impressions. And once you're visualizing, you visualize what you want to become or who you want to be or how you want to be different. And then feel the emotions of the benefits of that. And when you feel those emotions, that's when you make the strong impression on the subconscious and you actually rewrite the program. So when I say the program, I'm talking about the paradigm, whatever's controlling your behavior. So it is really possible to do that.
Quickly. Okay. Thank you.
Pleasure. And just quickly, something, Claire, what you raised was quite interesting because when I didn't mention it tonight, but I was reading up on this topic, and there was a whole section on children and siblings, and that parents actually don't help kids at all by trying to make things always fair. You each get a lollipop, you each get a t-shirt today, you each get, you know what I'm saying? Everything must be fair. They said the best thing is to separate that from the youngest age and let them know that nothing in life is fair and we're all different. So it's like, why can't I stay up? No, you're going to bed early because you're younger than your brother and you need more sleep than he does. When you get to 12 years of age, you can also go to bed at 8, but right now you're going to bed at 7. That kind of thing, that they understand that things are different and they're not going to be fair. And they even said when you tell kids an instruction, try not to make them a unison. Separate the instructions. So when they're all in the pool and you want them out, don't say, get out of the pool, guys. Actually say, John, can you please get out the pool, pack the pool bag and carry it to the car for me? Jenny, why don't you please get out the pool and put the trash in the bin for mommy and let's go to the car. So you're giving them, they're individuals. So I want you out the pool and can you please do this and can I get you out the pool? And not we're all doing this, we're all doing that, we're all together. Because then it becomes, I want fairness everywhere, and kids, if they get it in their household, trust me, they're going to get a big shock when they get to the real world because it doesn't happen, in the work life. That's one thing for sure, or in life outside the home. It's very difficult to even create it in the home life. It's not true. Claire says agree. Thanks. Yeah, so to keep the relationship and things different, and if even I just remember my younger brother couldn't have chocolate. It used to affect his sinuses and make his nose blocked. And my dad loves chocolate, and we love chocolate. And it was explained. This is affects your health. You don't like having a blocked nose. You can't sleep at night. You can't hardly breathe properly. And chocolate is a trigger for it. So through him deciding, he understands and needs to be the one to make the choice and not the one to be told, no, you can't have it. Change it round, saying you need to say when chocolate is in front of you, thank you, I choose not to have it, and use the word choose. So you keep being the one who's making the better choice or the self-empowered choice. So all those small little type of things, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. You want to look at that, how to teach kids that, you can't create fairness. All it's going to do is create more unfairness, the awareness that things are not fair. So make it, no, things are not fair. They're not the same for everybody, and there's a reason for that. So they'll share that 2 cents worth there when it comes to kids. So Claire, I can imagine without awareness and support in explaining things, and it can be very difficult, especially growing up, to reverse things like that for yourself. But you've done a lot and you've done well with your own personal development. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do, let me just tell you about the upcoming events. So for anyone new, I don't know if you know what the Silver Method is. The Silver Method is a 4-day dynamic meditation program. It's a self-development program. And if you want to know more about it, actually, I'd say the second thing that's on the screen there, let me just collapse this.
I've lost you.
What do you mean?
I can't see what you're doing. Sorry. Do you want?
Can everyone else see?
I can hear you, but I can't see.
You must have changed something on your side, Donna, because you're the only one who can't see.
Okay.
Just swipe left or swipe right if you're using a phone.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Otherwise, if you want to log off and log back on, you can.
Okay, I might do that.
If
I seem to have some trouble. Here we go. Oh, you're back. Thank you.
Okay. So if anybody wants to know more about the Silver Method, or people that you know, maybe you are a Silver graduate, a lot of people on tonight are Silver graduates, then you're welcome to share this event with them. It's a free presentation called The 4 Key Skills to Empower You. It's really based on the Silver Method, and I give some free tips how to help you in your life right away with what you can do just to live a better life and kind of navigate life with more grace and ease. So that's on the 13th of April. May is a 4-day immersion of the Silver Method, 13th to 16th of May. Then, sorry, this is on the next slide. So the Science of Getting Rich is a mastermind that sold out, but we want to do another one. I've been going through the content of this book in greater depth before this mastermind starts, and I've done this myself, attended it as a student of Bob Proctor's several times, and it's really a very good piece of work, especially when it comes to the science. It's called science because it refers to universal law a lot, and that is, science. So if anybody wants to book into the next one, just let me know. I'll keep you on a waiting list. I have some people already, and I'm not too sure when it'll be, but it'll probably be towards the back end of the year.
Sorry,
And
can
then,
I ask a question?
Yep.
Is that going to be in person or via Zoom?
It's both. So some
both.
of the people meet in the office and the rest are on Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then for some of you may not know, I also help people invest in property. So I'm sure you're aware, there's a property boom going on right now. And there's also a lot of confusion in the market and in the media as to what to do in a boom market. So I'm having a free webinar. If anybody here wants to join, just put in the chat box yes, or raise your hand or something. Want to know about it? I'll send out the details, or maybe do a short video as to when the event is. And I'm just going to be talking about understanding the different states across Australia and what's really an opportunity and what is actually not an opportunity, because in a boom it can be confusing. What to buy, where to buy it, how you could buy with no money down if you were thinking, I can't get into the property market. Well, it depends. You may be able to. And how to buy in your self-managed super fund. And if you don't have a self-managed super fund, could you get one? What are the benefits? Just talking about that. So if anybody wants to know anything about that, it's got nothing to do with Meaningful Monday, just let me know and I will send out the information on that webinar that's coming up, probably in about 3 weeks' time. I haven't got a date yet. I'll be doing that tomorrow. All right, so let's have a quick meditation now. So grab yourself a pen and paper and make yourself comfortable. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to first, if you're new, just to tell you if you're new, a guided meditation just to relax you from head to toe. You're going to imagine a beautiful waterfall of white light just flowing over you and clearing your energy field and just any stress, just releasing all of that. Then the waterfall will change to green, which is just symbolic of unconditional love. And you're going to feel that love and that self-love. And then once you've done that, we're going to set our intention for the month ahead. And I'm going to ask you 2 or 3 questions. And when I ask those questions, don't analyze anything. Just write down your very first impressions with a pen on paper. And if you can even do it with your eyes closed or hardly open, do it that way, that you stay in meditation, you stay deeply relaxed. And these answers will come from your own intuition. And I actually say that you're going to tune into your intuition or your higher self, whatever term you want to use. And then you can trust these answers because they will be most likely different if I asked you these questions out loud right now, what we call in the beta level, with your eyes wide open. Okay, so if we're all ready, I'll just put my video off. So just relax. Your goal is just to relax, make yourself comfortable, have a pen and paper. These answers are for yourself. So let everything else that you've got going on in your life, just let it go and give this 10 minutes or whatever it is to yourself now. Okay, find a comfortable position, close your eyes, take a nice deep belly breath into the corners of your belly, and as you exhale, just really release and blow out of your mouth like you're blowing out a candle, and just allow all the tensions in your body to be released. Take another deep belly breath in, and as you exhale, just begin to feel your body relaxing. Notice any tensions or ligament pressures and release them. And now we're going to focus on parts of our body and relax slowly from head to toe. Let's begin by just focusing on our scalp. And with your imagination and your mind and your intention, just relax your scalp. Relax your forehead. Relax your eyes. Relax your face and your cheeks. Relax your tongue and jaw. Relax your neck. Take another deep breath in, and as you exhale, relax your shoulders, arms, and hands. Continue to breathe deeply, slowly, and rhythmically. And now relax your back from your neck to the end of your spine. Take another deep breath in, and as you exhale, relax your hips and pelvic area, and relax your thighs. Relax your knees, relax your calves, relax your feet, and relax your toes. You are now experiencing a deep state of relaxation. Now you're going to create in your mind, with your imagination, your ideal place of relaxation. It can be real or imagined, somewhere that you've been or maybe somewhere that you'd like to go. And allow it to be a place where you feel totally relaxed. Begin to experience this place of relaxation right now. Now that you've created your ideal place of relaxation, you're going to add a waterfall of white light into the scene. Place it wherever you choose. The waterfall is gentle, allowing you to stand under the cascading white light. This light is a healing energy, a clearing energy. Your waterfall of light is now created. Walk over to the waterfall and stand under this white healing light. Allow the white light to swirl around you, encompassing you within its glow. It is clearing all the stress, tension, and clutter away. As you experience it clearing all the stress and tension away, experience it as if it's clearing not only the day or the week or the past month or even the past year. Experience it as it clearing the stress, tension, and clutter of your entire lifetime from your energy field. And as the light clears your energy field, just notice how much happier you look. Notice the smile on your face. See how the weights that you've been carrying are no longer a burden. Notice how your energy field is expanding out as you are radiating love. This waterfall of light is always available to you whenever you need. All you need to do is close your eyes and imagine your ideal place of relaxation and immerse yourself in this healing white light. Now take a deep breath, relax a bit deeper, and repeat these beneficial statements to yourself mentally. Every day, in every way, I am getting better, better, and better. Positive thoughts, suggestions, and images bring me benefits that I desire. I will always maintain a perfectly healthy body, mind, and immune system. The following statements are for your better health. Keep in mind, from now on, I will occasionally be speaking in your place. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every cell, tissue, organ, and system of my body is revitalized, restored, and renewed, resulting in a perfectly healthy body, mind, and immune system. I'm able to function in harmony physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to promote maximum benefits. My awareness in using my mind allows me to do activities that promote increased health physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Now imagine the white light turns to green and you are immersed in a glowing green light. This green light is unconditional love. It surrounds you. It encompasses you. It flows through your entire being. It fills you with love. All those hurts you felt, all the pains you felt, the angry moments, the disappointments, allow this green light, this unconditional love, to heal all those spaces now. You are an amazing human being. You deserve love. You deserve joy. You deserve abundance. and you deserve peace. It is now time to step out of the waterfall. Step out of the waterfall of light. Your energy field is now clean and clear. You feel centered and energized. You feel a greater sense of clarity and focus. And you feel like you are in the flow of universal love and energy. Take a moment now to bask in this feeling of connectedness. Connected to everything and everyone in this entire universe. With a feeling of love. You have now reset your body and mind for the month. It is now time to set your intention for the month ahead. I'm going to count backwards from 10 to 1. When we reach the count of 1, you will have tuned into your own inner wisdom, your intuition, or your higher self. That part of you that when you tuned in, guides you and intuitively knows what is best for you. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're now tuned in to your own inner wisdom, your intuition, or your higher self. The part of you that guides you and knows what is best for you. Now, in this very relaxed state, I'm going to ask you a few questions and just write your first impressions down. Don't analyze or judge anything. Just write anything that comes to mind down. The first question is, what do I need to focus on for the month of April? Whatever comes to mind, just write it down and then take a deep breath, close your eyes and re-enter your meditation. What do I need to focus on for the month of April? Next question. What steps do I need to take me closer to what I want to be, do, or have? Write down your first impressions. What steps do I need to take me closer to what I want to do, be, or have? Take a breath and relax. Keep your eyes closed. And the last question, or the next question is, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to let go of? And then the last question, is there anything else I need to know or do? Is there anything else? And then allow a deep breath and relax. Bring your awareness back into your body and where you are, where you're sitting, and into the present moment. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. At the count of 5, you'll open your eyes, be wide awake, feeling fine, in perfect health, feeling better than before. 1, 2, coming out slowly now. 3, at the count of 5, you'll open your eyes, be wide awake, feeling fine and in perfect health, feeling better than before. 4, 5. Eyes open, wide awake, feeling fine and in perfect health, feeling better than before. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Welcome back. Was that helpful at all? Did any of you get answers? Got one hand's up there. Thanks, Carly. You're the barometer for the whole thing. All right, I'll stop the recording. Anybody want to share anything